In the last screencast, we set up an LDAP server using OpenLDAP and then went through to create two test users, Joe and Jane, within that LDAP server. In this screencast, what we're going to be doing is configuring another server, client.test.net, so that not only will it look locally for users, it'll also look at our LDAP. The whole idea being around centralized user authentication. So if you're on a corporate network, you'd put all your users into an LDAP server and then configure each of your servers to look for the user credentials here, so everything's managed centrally. In order to do this, what we're going to need to do is configure this server, so tell it to look at LDAP. And the way we would do that is by using a thing called PAM, Pluggable Authentication Modules. So what you're seeing here is basically a stack view of how this works. So your applications such as SSH or GDM, sudo, anything that requires the user to be authenticated, like when you're logging in, it won't actually look directly at these etc password or etc shadows files. What it does is it talks to PAM on the Linux server, the Pluggable Authentication Module software, and PAM, depending upon its configuration, will then look at these files and then tell the application, yes, this user can do that. And so PAM is basically the kingpin. It's sort of like a middleware for this software. And so in order to get our server talking to our LDAP and authenticating users against the LDAP, this is the software that we're going to be needing to configure. So the first step is to install the PAM module for LDAP. Now all servers use PAM if you're using Ubuntu, so and presumably Debian as well. So we don't actually need to install any PAM, it's already on there, you're actually already using it whether you knew about it or not. But we are going to need to install the LDAP module for PAM, and we can do that with apt-get install lib PAM LDAP. Now the module is going to ask a series of questions, so it can be configured. The first of which is, where is your LDAP server located? You need to change that prefix there from LDAP API to LDAP, and then just give it the IP address of your server. In my case, 172.16.1.1. Next step is to give it the distinguished name. In our case it was DC test DCnet. LDAP version, I'm just going to leave that as 3, there's no reason to change it. Go yes to that, yes. Does it require login? No. We can bind anonymously to our LDAP the way we set it up. And then we're going to give it the admin LDAP user. And just to recap, if you look in your LDAP, there's, sorry, not that, this user here that's set up when you created LDAP. So that's your admin user. Go OK. Yes. And the password we gave LDAP when we first installed it on our server, which in our case was 123. So answering that series of questions, we'll install the libpam LDAP module. And our next step is to also install nscd, which is the name server cache daemon. I believe what it does, and I'm a little sketchy on the details, but I believe it caches user credentials, so but you do need that software installed. So first step, we're going to edit the nsswitch.conf file, and into here where it's this is where it looks to know what passwords, groups, shadow information it should get. We're also going to tell it now to look at LDAP. Save that file. Next step is to go and actually do the PAM configuration. All the config files for PAM are under etc pam.d. If we look in here, there's various configuration files for a few things. Just quickly, the PAM, the common auth config file is when you're first logging in. That's where PAM looks to know how to authenticate the user. Common password is how it knows how to update your password credentials. Common sessions used for things such as you could put rules in there that say users are only allowed in between certain times of the day. Common account, a little sketchy on that one. In any case, what you want to do is probably have a bit of a read through the first link that I'll post on this page about PAM, because a lot of this just looks like gobbledygook. I'm still trying to come to terms with it myself, so I won't even try and explain it, but I will show you the entries that you'd need to get put in here to just make a basic configuration, get your users authenticating against an LDAP. So we're going to edit the common auth file first. I'm just going to add the line in here, auth required pam ldap.so use first pass, and a second line, just auth required pam permit.so, and I just need to change this pam Unix module here to say that sufficient. So basically this is saying look at the Unix password stuff first. If it's there, that's cool, authenticate the user. Failing that, if it's not there, then you have to have basically look at LDAP. If it's not on the LDAP, you're not getting in. So that's the common auth file. We're going to edit 4 of these files, by the way. So common auth, next one is common account that I'm going to change, and into here I'm going to add the line account required pam ldap.so and just get that. So that's going to now look at the LDAP as well for its information, and again adding in a line here to just say that if the information is already local, so it's a local user, and then that's sufficient enough for us. Otherwise it's going to have to, the user credentials have to be in LDAP. Third file is common session, and into here I'm going to add the line session required, and this is actually an interesting one. Of course, by default, because your users are residing in the LDAP, they won't actually have home directories on each of the server until you create them. So I'm adding this line here is actually a nifty trick that will tell PAM if the user doesn't have a home directory, then create one for them. And last line, common password, which is going to be used whenever the user tries to update their password from on one of these machines, so that'll actually update it in the LDAP. So the line I'm adding, password required pam ldap.so, and I'm just going to change this one again to sufficient. So if it's a local user, that's cool. Save that. Now I'll need to restart the nscd daemon using that command, and that's our server configured. So we should now be able to log in with one of our LDAP users. Just to test this, I'm first going to log in with root, just to make sure we still have root access. Sorry. I'm already logged into the server. Okay. VMnet2, by the way, is just the name of the virtual machine. It's a DNS entry. So what I'm really doing is logging into that client server here, and I'm logging with root and my password, and so it's worked. We haven't blocked access. Now it's good to open up 2 terminals while you're doing this, because if you do make a mistake, you're basically going to lock yourself out. So you want to keep a session open so you can always go back and change those configuration files to give yourself access again. So logged out now, let's try use one of our LDAP users. So I'm going to use Joe that we set up in the first screencast. It's prompting me for a password, and I recall we set Joe's password to 123. Let's try that again. Okay, it looks like we've got a problem. First place for problems is the var log auth file. It's saying fail password. Oh, I do believe I've been doing some testing, and Joe's password is actually test123. I tried to do a screencast before this, and that was one of the examples I showed. But perhaps let's just try as an example. I'm logged in as Joe now. If I run the password command, give the LDAP login. Oh, sorry, test123. So that's basically saying his old password. What's the new password? No, can't set it to 123. This isn't turning out very well, is it? Let's set his password to password. Something no one will ever guess. Okay, and I've now set Joe's password, but of course it hasn't set it locally, it's changed it on the LDAP server because of our configuration. Jane's password I know I haven't been playing with, so if we log in with Jane and 123, there you go, you can see that we're obviously logging in using the LDAP, it's not authenticating locally, and that's how to configure a client server. Thanks for watching.